You're listening to Rob McConnell in the X Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network. Visit us online at www.xzoneradio.com.
But lately something's changed, it ain't hard to define. Jesse's got himself a girl and I want to make her mine. And she's watching with no eye.
The X Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Ram Media Company, their advertisers, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or their employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Doing that thing you do, breaking my heart into a million pieces, like you always do. And you don't mean to be cruel, you never even knew about the heartache I've been going through. Well, I tried to forget you, girl. Just so hard to do. Every time you do that thing you do.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. The X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Our toll-free number is 1-877-528-8255. That's toll-free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii at 1-877-528-8255. My email address is xzone@talkstarradio.com. On MSN Messenger, talkstarradio@hotmail.com, and our websites, www.xzoneradio.com. And if you'd like to watch, listen, and chat with the coolest radio audience anywhere, www.xzonetv.com. My producer at Master Control in Titusville, Florida, is the one and only Miss Melanie, and my chat room moderator at X Zone TV is my friend Rob from Scarborough, Ontario. On tonight's show, we are going to be talking in a few minutes to Michael Varhola. We're going to be talking about America's haunted road trip. In hour number 2, we're going to be talking to a gentleman who's going to tell us why benevolent dictators make the best business leaders. He says small business owners should practice tough love. Dr. Lynn Ketai is going to be joining us in hour number 3 talking about the Phoenix Lights. And in hour number 4, Zach Barkhouse will be talking to us about dead pet stories. That's live tonight here on the X Zone. This is the only place where we can actually talk to the dead and people will understand what we're talking about. Once again, our toll-free number is 1-877-528-8255. That's toll-free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii at 1-877-528-8255. My first guest tonight is a gentleman by the name of Michael Varhola. We're going to be talking about Haunted America Road Trip, or America's Haunted Road Trip. And Michael, welcome to the X Zone.
Thank you very much, Rob. I'm glad to be here.
Tell me, what's America's Haunted Road Trip all about?
Well, America's Haunted Road Trip is a concept that is exemplified by a series of travel guides that are written by authors who specialize in haunted areas, haunted sites in the areas in which they live. And what each one of these books does is cover somewhere around 3 dozen publicly accessible haunted sites, purportedly haunted sites.
Mm-hmm.
The authors don't necessarily have to believe the sites are haunted or prove they're haunted
Right.
or disprove they're haunted, but about 3 dozen purportedly haunted sites in the region that they're covering that people can visit. So these are, in fact, travel guides, and there is actionable information in the various books. And when somebody picks up one of these travel guides, Ghosthunting Virginia or Ghosthunting Maryland or any of the others, we don't have vague ghost stories that tell people, well, in a farmhouse outside of Rockville, Maryland, steps can be heard going up the stairs. No, we actually give an address for the place where our story takes place.
All right,
And
Michael, stand by. I've got to
that?
take a 2-minute commercial break. We'll be right back talking to Michael Varhola. He is talking to us about America's Haunted Road Trip here on the X Zone. He's one of the authors of Ghosthunting Maryland. 1-877-528-8255 is toll free. xzone@talkstarradio.com is my email address. I'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break, and we're going to be continuing talking about America's Haunted Road Trip here on the X Zone from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada on Talkstar.
No milk today, my love has gone away. The bottle stands forlorn, a symbol of the dawn. No milk today, it seems a common sight, but people passing by don't know the reason why. How could they know just what this message means? The end of my hopes, the end of all my dreams. How could they know the powers that have been behind the door where my love reigned a scream? No milk today, it wasn't all.
Michael Varhola is our special guest. He has had a long lifetime interest in the paranormal and conducted investigations worldwide. He is a public speaker, author of several books, and a freelance journalist with a strong background in history, research, and fieldwork. He lives in Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. And, Michael, why do you think ghosts and the investigation into the paranormal is so popular these days?
Well, in the introduction to my book, I'm only half joking, but I'm half serious. I really date the mainstream and widespread public interest in these kinds of subjects to the X-Files. That was an incredibly popular television show, and I think it really brought into the forefront of people's minds subjects like this and really helped make them a lot more mainstream. So you've always had people who were interested in the paranormal. You can go back and find writers who were writing about haunted houses 3,000 years ago. So this is nothing new. But I'd venture to say 10 years ago, most people wouldn't know what you meant if you used a phrase like ghost hunting. So this is a concept that has really moved into the forefront of people's minds. And I think you can go back to whenever the X-Files came out, early 90s, and that's really when I think people started waking up to the idea that this is something that they, as individuals, could participate in.
Now, Michael, where did your interest come from?
Well, I grew up in Europe as a child, and I can't tell you any one thing that sparked my interest, but I think living in a very old area, a place where you probably do have more ghosts per capita because it is such an old area, couldn't have hurt. And certainly my interest in history and research and visiting historical sites came from growing up in Europe and visiting things like the Normandy battlefield on the 30th anniversary of D-Day. Being able to do those sorts of things as a kid just sort of awakened all of the interests that I have. And ghost hunting and the paranormal are just one. And it's just one that is sort of integrated with everything else that I do and everything else that I'm interested in. So it's my upbringing and my background, I'd say.
Why is it called ghost hunting?
Well, Rob, when we want to discuss anything with other people, we are limited by the vocabulary at hand. And I am not really wild about that term. Why is it called ghost hunting? I don't know. It really shouldn't be called ghost hunting.
Because when you go hunting somebody, you go to kill.
Ghost watching.
Yeah. Well, that's a good explanation. Because when you go hunting, you go to kill something, and you're not out there to kill the ghost.
Yeah, exactly so. This is ghost hunting in the sense that a photo safari is a safari. We're there for the most part to observe. It's not like Ghostbusters. We're not bringing ghost traps with us and trying to actually capture the ghosts. So yeah, it is a bit of a misnomer, but it's a bit of a melodramatic word, and it's the one that caught on.
What is the scariest thing that you have ever experienced in your ghost hunting career?
Well, in the recent past, I'll give two brief answers to that. In the recent past, it would be the various trips that I've made out to a site called Bunnyman Bridge in Northern Virginia, which just happens to be only 8 miles from my house. And I believe it to be a profoundly haunted site, a somewhat malignly haunted site. And I have actually been brought right up to the verge of panic when visiting that site. And a number of people have been. Many psychic investigators or paranormal researchers have had a similar response to that site. I'd say the overall scariest, most profoundly terrifying experience I've had doing an investigation was when I was exploring the catacombs under the city of Paris back in 1990, so almost 20 years ago now. I spent 12 hours in the catacombs with a bunch of kids that call themselves tunnel rats, and at one point we stopped to rest, and I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I was laying on top of a sepulcher surrounded by candles in a cavern 120 feet or so beneath the surface of the city, and was completely disoriented. And I'd say that's probably the most classically nightmarish situation I found myself in while doing something like this. And it passed pretty quickly, but you only need a few seconds of that.
I would imagine so.
To be pretty scared by it.
Tell me, what are some of your theories on what ghosts actually are?
Well, I'll go back again to my reference to the vocabulary that we use. We've got to use a common vocabulary, and the term we use to describe certain phenomena is ghost. I think you're dealing with two different things when you go out to most haunted sites. One is what ghost hunters call a residual haunting. And there really what you're looking at is a psychic video. You're looking at some scene or image from the past that ends up replaying itself. So I think a large proportion of the classic hauntings people talk about are these unintelligent, uninteractive, residual hauntings, which are some sort of psychic impression left by a very traumatic event in the past.
So it's like an imprint in time.
What's that?
It's like an imprint in time.
Exactly so. So we use the word ghost to describe that, and the word ghost implies a sort of undead presence, and that may or may not actually be what we're looking at. But that's the one sort, and I think that's the most common sort of haunting. And then you've got a more active sort of haunting. You've got an intelligent haunting, and that is more of your classic ghost. It's much less common, but that is the ghost that when you watch these ghost hunting television shows will respond when people say, give us a sign, let us know that you're here. It's something that has some degree of awareness. I think in most cases nowhere near the degree of awareness that it had in life, but it can be reactive, and it does interact with people.
Is it possible? Is it possible that what a person believes to be a ghost is actually telekinesis, or the person's own mind making the sounds or the determinations, or reacting as the ghost?
I think that's possible. I don't believe that that's the case in all instances. I know a really wonderful academic psychic investigator named Dr. Stephen Browdy, and he's one of the rare, truly academic paranormal investigators. He's the head of the philosophy department at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. So, obviously, being interested in ghost hunting in Maryland right now, I've interacted with him a bit. But he believes that all of these phenomena are externalizations of psychic phenomena. That's right. That they're some sort of telekinetic effect. I think most psychic researchers, or a preponderance of them today, acknowledge that a poltergeist is not really a ghost at all.
No.
A poltergeist is some sort of psychic trauma that's being externalized. But no, I don't believe that it would be fair to say that that's what all of these things are. I think that breaks down, and that's too pat to be able to try to categorize them all. And it'd be really not a whole lot more valid than saying all of them are figments of people's imagination, and I don't think that's accurate either.
What other topics do you cover in America's Haunted Road Trip? Do you just cover ghosts? Do you cover, for example, Bigfoot sightings? Do you cover Chupacabra sightings?
No, we really don't. We don't cover X creatures or other paranormal phenomena per se. When I encounter phenomena like that associated with a certain site that I'm investigating, we'll talk about that other phenomena. So, for example, there's an area called Berry Hill Road, a road in southern Virginia, and I devote a chapter of that to Ghosthunting Virginia, and it has all sorts of weird effects associated with it. It has a gravity hill road where cars roll uphill. It's got sightings of Satan worshipers. So it's got a lot of other weird peripheral phenomena associated with it, but they wouldn't have made it into the book. They wouldn't have made it into the series unless there was a ghost as well. So witches and demons and all of the other associated paranormal phenomena are not covered directly by the America's Haunted Road Trip series. It's really things that could be categorized as ghosts per se that we're covering in this series. But Clerisy Press is looking into doing something that covers the paranormal more generally, and I am trying to lead the charge on that.
1-877-528-8255 is toll-free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. My special guest this hour is Michael Varhola. We're talking about America's Haunted Road Trip. And where is the most haunted place in Maryland?
The most haunted place in Maryland that I have seen to date is a 300-year-old house in Frederick, Maryland, called the Schifferstadt. And it was built by a couple of German brothers back in the 18th century. And I have seen in the 3 hours I spent there more anomalies in the recordings and photographs that I took than I have seen in any other place in Maryland today.
Wow.
I'd say it's a pretty significantly haunted site, and it's a pretty well-known haunted site. But I am covering it in the book, and it is definitely worth a visit for anyone who is interested in doing an investigation somewhere. And there are a few close runner-ups as well, but if I had to pick one, that would be the one.
Why is it that some people can see ghosts and hear ghosts, and other people can't?
Well, there could be a number of reasons for that. I think the conventional reason that a lot of people would give is that the people who are seeing the ghosts are just making it up. But that's too simple, and I don't think it's true. I think most people, if I had to put a number on it, I'd say 90% of people have some sort of sensitivity. They're born with some sort of sensitivity, and then they are just basically trained to suppress it as they get older and progress through life. There are very, very few rewards for being sensitive to things that you can't sense with your traditional five senses. So I would venture to say most people have the ability to detect on some level paranormal phenomena, and they just choose to ignore them because, frankly, most people's lives are easier if they don't see these various phenomena.
Michael, stand by. We've got to take our news at the bottom of the hour. Exo Nation, we're talking about America's Haunted Road Trip. And Michael Varhola is our special guest. He's one of the authors of Ghosthunting Maryland that is due to be released in September of 2009. 1-877-528-8255 is toll-free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. My name is Rob McConnell. We'll be back after the news as we continue live and around the world from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada on Talkstar.
Drum roll, please. You're about to make one of the smartest decisions of your life. You're going to get your degree online. It's a fact. People with a degree, on average, make $1 million more in a lifetime. But where are you going to go to school? There are hundreds of online colleges and universities, and thousands of programs to choose from. No worries. Cue the music. Introducing Education Connection. This amazing free service will help you find the right school for you for free. Every day, Education Connection matches students to schools that are perfect for them. Not sure about what to study? Log on to 9educationmatching.com and get a free personality test that can help match you to the right career. This is a $75 value, but it's yours free. So take a minute and go online and learn more about your favorite subject, you. Get a free personality test, a $75 value at 9educationmatching.com. The number 9educationmatching.com. That's 9educationmatching.com.
Whether it's the arrival of Planet X in 2012, the Earth's crazy weather cycles, our deadly global warming, Armageddon, UFOs, ETs, terrorism, the critical mass 2008 presidential elections, Dr. Jason Rand talks the talk and walks the walk. Being a twice-nominated Grammy record producer, recording artist, publisher, lecturer, UFO ET researcher and investigator, and best-selling author of The Return of Planet X, Mankind's Ongoing Legacy with a Brown Dwarf Star, Dr. Jason Rand truly does walk the walk and talk the talk. For more information on Dr. Jason Rand or to order The Return of Planet X, visit his website at www.returnofplanet-x.com or call 901-336-9660. And where will you be in the year 2012?
You're listening to Rob McConnell in the X Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network. Visit us online at www.xzoneradio.com.
Hi, this is Ken Elliott. When I'm floating around the universe, I always try to tune in to Rob McConnell.
Hi, ho there, Trinity Frog on Sesame Street. When I want to find out what's going on with UFOs or ghosts, I listen to the X Zone with Rob McConnell.
This is Les Corrigan from Target Internet Development. You're listening to Rob McConnell on the X Zone Radio Show.
This is John Hogue, prophecy scholar, and you're listening to Rob McConnell in the X Zone.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
So you are a star, okay. Nobody knows you like I do. And you will go far, okay. Nobody knows you like I do. You got to live only me. You got to feel only me. 'Cause nobody knows you. Nobody shows you the way that I do.
Michael Varhola is our special guest. We're talking about America's Haunted Road Trip this hour. Michael is one of the authors of Ghosthunting Maryland that is going to be released this coming September. He's had a lifelong interest in the paranormal and has conducted investigations worldwide. He is a public speaker, author of several books, and a freelance journalist with a strong background in history, research, and fieldwork. He lives in Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. And Michael, how do you conduct your research?
Well, the kind of research I do is not necessarily the same kind of research that you see paranormal investigators on TV doing. And I don't make any claims to be anything more than a travel writer. That's essentially what I'm doing. I am researching out the actual history of any of the places that we encounter, that we want to include. I am researching out the haunted history of the place, which often includes interviewing people who are associated with the place. And then I'm going out and I'm putting boots on the ground and I'm visiting the place. And what I actually do when I'm out there varies. Sometimes I'm just going out and visiting the site and talking to the people that run it. Sometimes, if it's a hotel or a bed and breakfast, I will actually stay there for 2 or 3 days so that I can get more of a hands-on sense of the place. Sometimes I'll set up the camera on the tripod, and I'll take a lot of digital photography in certain areas, especially ones that are purported to have had paranormal phenomena. Sometimes I will run the recorder and try to pick up some EVPs. And I always just try to leave my mind open and be sensitive to what's going on around me. So I'm not necessarily conducting a full paranormal investigation to the standards that some paranormal investigators do, because that's really not what I'm about. What I'm about is telling people how they can get out to sites and conduct their own investigations. So the level of investigation I conduct varies, but I always go out to the site, and I always tell people what they need to know to be able to go out to the site themselves.
Does a belief in ghosts coincide or conflict with traditional religious beliefs, Michael?
I don't think it necessarily does. I think traditional religious beliefs can color the meaning people take away from ghost hunting. So, for example, somebody was just posting to the America's Haunted Trip website, America's Haunted Road Trip website, a reference to the Old Testament story about King Saul visiting the Witch of Endor, and the biblical injunction that comes out of his visit to the Witch of Endor, who is a necromancer, who speaks with ghosts and tries to derive information from them. This disquieted this gentleman a bit, and he was wondering, okay, can I be a Christian and can I be a ghost hunter? So his belief in the existence of ghosts was not affected, but whether he felt comfortable from a religious point of view going out and hunting for them was. And really, people who completely dismiss religion or the supernatural per se altogether might still believe that ghosts exist, but that they are just not a supernatural phenomena. For example, I mentioned the Stephen Browdy, Dr. Browdy. He believes they're externalizations of telekinesis. So, I think people's religious background and their beliefs and whatever dogmas they adhere to are going to color how they approach ghost hunting, whether they approach ghost hunting, how they interpret these various phenomena. But you get people of all sorts of beliefs involved in this phenomena now.
Are there any specific ghosts that are more frequently seen than others?
Yes, there are more sorts of ghosts. I think I understand the sense of your question here, but redirect me if you think you need to. There are some specific ghosts that are seen a lot. When I was reading John Kachuba's book, Ghost Hunting Illinois, and I believe you've spoken with John before.
Many times. He's a great guy.
He's our series editor. He's a great guy. He mentions a number of sites in his book where Lincoln's ghost is purported to have been spotted. And when I did Ghost Hunting in Virginia, which included Washington, D.C., I mentioned a number of sites where Lincoln's ghost is purported to have been seen. So ghosts like Lincoln, ghosts of famous people, ghosts like Lincoln, Washington, they turn up in multiple sites. And that is problematic. and it is something that ghost hunters sort of have to at least try to address when they're investigating a site and the ghost of Abraham Lincoln is associated with it, and you know very well that the ghost of Abraham Lincoln is associated with 12 other sites. Well, what does that mean? And it can mean any number of things. But yes, there are some ghosts that are more frequently encountered than others.
That brings up another question. How can a ghost be in two places at the same time?
Well, I don't think a ghost can be in two places at the same time. I think you're dealing with a couple of things. One possibility is that you're looking at what we referred to earlier as a residual haunting. It's not really an intelligent ghost per se. It's not really the spirit of the person. It's some sort of psychic energy or psychic residue, a snapshot of the past. And you can have multiple snapshots. You can only have one person, in one place at a time for all practical purposes, but you could have many pictures of that person. So that might be something that we're dealing with regard to someone like Lincoln. Another is that you might genuinely have a ghost, but people are lazy. People are not necessarily very imaginative. And if you've got a guy in a powdered wig who has been spotted haunting a house down in Williamsburg, Virginia, well, God help him, people are just going to call him George Washington. So the fact that George Washington haunts any number of dozens of places in Virginia. I don't think that's a coincidence. Any of those places could be haunted, but it isn't really George Washington that's there. It's either residual haunting on the one hand or some other 18th century fellow who people look at and say, oh, well, that must be George Washington, and they don't bother to go any further. And frankly, if there is any truth to that statement that I just made at all, you would think that would antagonize a ghost. If a ghost is actually lingering about for whatever reasons, if something has kept the spirit of a person on this plane for whatever reasons, and every time he pops up and tries to give whatever message he's trying to give so that he can be free and move on, and people say, oh, look, it's George Washington, I think that's probably just antagonizing them. So I think those are the two main things you're looking at. And then the third thing is something which I think is less common, but it could happen. There's actually no haunting at all, and people are simply making the claim that there's one, that a famous person is haunting for purposes of publicity or drawing attention to themselves. And I suspect that happens
many times.
Yeah.
Ghost hauntings bring revenue for a number of bars, pubs, and restaurants and hotels.
Well, you know, Rob, you are right, and that is why it is so ironic that if you contact a bar, restaurant, or hotel, and I'm in South Dakota right now visiting my daughter. I actually came out here for purposes of taking her to a funeral. And I came out on short notice, and I thought, okay, well, let's see if I can't get out to some of the haunted sites, say, in Deadwood or downtown Rapid City. And I've contacted a number of hotels and other institutions, and there's dead silence on the other end. Rob, none of them are getting back to me, and I don't know why. Because I guarantee when I go up and visit them incognito tomorrow, it's going to be pretty quiet, and it wouldn't have hurt them at all to have me broadcasting from there tonight. So, or speaking, to you from there tonight. So, yeah, I don't know. You're right. It does help businesses, but it's amazing the number of businesses that are completely entrenched against even declining an offer of an investigation or inclusion in a book.
Why does a ghost haunt a specific place? For example, if the person didn't die in the bar, why would his ghost be there?
Well, the person might have a strong emotional connection to the place.
Oh, like his
that
favorite
might be
haunt,
one
so to
reason.
speak.
So maybe that bar was the most important place in the world to that person, and just on some visceral level, that's where they felt they were supposed to be. So that's one possibility, that they died somewhere else and they kind of came home. Another possibility is the phenomenon of the hitchhiking ghost. And this is not a theory of my own. It's not necessarily one that I'm trying to sell, but I have heard this a number of times from people who run beds and breakfasts or hotels, that there is no history to a particular ghost that's affiliated with their place, and they believe it was carried in by someone else and somehow just felt that it was at home and decided to stay. So that's another possibility, that a ghost has come in with someone and not left with them. So those are a couple of possibilities.
Why do people go to graveyards to see ghosts?
Why wouldn't people go to graveyards to see ghosts, Rob?
Well, the people didn't die there. All you have in a graveyard is a empty biological unit.
Yeah, and there are a number of people who would agree that because of that, ghosts are less likely to be encountered in graveyards. But in practice, ghosts do in fact get encountered in graveyards, and I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe the spirit lingers with that empty biological unit for a little while, and if that person was not happy about being killed, the fact that there's a burial ritual, which is intended for the living in a sense, it's to help the living walk away from the dead person and move on with their lives. It's not necessarily intended to help the dead person move on. The fact that a person is buried in a cemetery is not necessarily going to help their spirit move on, and it isn't necessarily going to preclude a ghost lingering about where that person's body was. It might reduce the chance of it, but, it's a numbers game. Even if it reduces the chance of a ghost being there by half or 90%, a certain number I think could still turn up. I have heard too many stories of ghostly phenomena associated with cemeteries to dismiss the possibility that there are ghosts in them.
I think the key word in your last statement was, I've heard a lot of stories. Now, how many ghosts have you actually seen yourself in a cemetery?
Well, I'll tell you, I've never seen a ghost in real time myself anywhere. The closest I've seen to seeing a ghost in real time is when I have been in a couple of different haunted sites that I would go on the record as saying I believe to be haunted. And when I took a digital photo, there's generally a little image that will linger on the digital camera screen for a couple seconds after you take a photo. When I've taken a digital photo, I'll see a black screen with a little tiny dot on it. And then when I've gone in later and zoomed in on that dot, it has been a phenomena such as an orb, for example. So that's the closest that I have knowingly ever come to seeing a ghost in real time. So I haven't actually seen a ghost in a cemetery or anywhere else, per se.
Do you give orbs any credibility? I certainly don't.
I give them quite a lot of credibility. Yes.
Why?
Well, I'll tell you why. I know all the reasons why they are dismissed, but I can tell the difference between a speck of dust, for example, or a bit of moisture on my lens, and the effects that it produces. And those are two of the main dismissals that are given for orbs. I'll tell you, I take several thousand digital photographs a year. Every single year under all sorts of conditions, all sorts of places, all sorts of conditions, all sorts of light conditions, moisture conditions, climactic conditions. And I have only ever found compelling orbs at 7 different places. 7 different places. Of all the thousands of photos in hundreds of sites that I've taken digital photography, I have only ever found orbs in 7 different places, and they have all been purportedly haunted sites, and they are all among the sites that I would go on the record as saying that I believe to be haunted.
All right, so what do you think an orb is?
I think an orb is some sort of spiritual residue. I think it is what you could call, for lack of a better term, a ghost. I think it is the residue, the remains, spiritual remains of what was formerly a person, or possibly an animal, a living biological unit.
I don't know. I've seen so many phony photos of orbs doing the show for the last 17 years that somebody starts talking to me about orbs, I say, oh, here we go, woo-woo farm again.
Well, rather than try to convince you, what I would respond with saying is, I don't try to convince people of anything. And I agree with you, Rob. I agree with you. If somebody comes to me with a photo that I didn't take, that they took, I tend to be a little bit skeptical. I really do. And you've got to consider your source. So when I tell you what I just told you, I am not pretending that I have just offered you proof of anything.
You've taken the photo, you can't explain it, and to the best of your knowledge, it's an orb.
I'm telling you what I think it is.
All right, I've got to take a commercial break. We'll be back on the other side in 4 minutes. This is the X-Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network. My name's Rob McConnell. We'll be back right after this word from our fine sponsors here on the Talkstar Radio Network.
It may have been a messy divorce that suddenly cut your income in half, but not your bills. It might have been an injury, an illness, or your boss just cutting back your hours. It doesn't really matter how you got in over your head. It only matters that you are and that we're here to help. If you've got over $10,000 in credit card debt and you can't ever see breaking free, then call J. Warren Financial and do it now. Being in over your head is a vicious cycle. One day late, they charge you a late fee. Miss a payment, they double your rate. You just don't think it's fair, and neither do we. This is not bankruptcy or just a simple rate reduction plan. We fight for you using our proven experience and the insider programs the credit card companies try to hide.
If you have at least $10,000 in credit card debt, you owe it to yourself to call Jay Warren at 800-518-8624. Just because you're in over your head doesn't mean you need to stay there forever. Call 800-518-8624 today, and we can be on your side tomorrow. That's 800-518-8624.
Are you getting tired of all the bad news? Well, then take a break from the worries of the world and play the love game. It's time to focus on what is really important in our lives, our relationships. You deserve more love, happiness, and harmony in your life. Synchro Hearts is the new hot relationship game that guarantees more love, laughter, and romance for you and your partner. It's not a sex game, it's a love game based on all the important relationship stuff like better communication, more intimacy, and lots of fun and excitement. Great intimacy is just one of the benefits of playing Synchro Hearts. Now, President Obama inspires hope, love, and peace for the world. Synchro Hearts offers more hope, love, and harmony for relationships. To order your very own edition of Synchro Hearts, visit Synchro Hearts' website now at www.synchrohearts.com. That's www.synchrohearts.com. Synchro Hearts. It's the game you love to play
And play to love.
We're talking about America's Haunted Road Trip. Our guest is Michael Varhola. We're talking about his book. Well, he's one of the authors of Ghosthunting Maryland. It is being released in September of this year. And was your experience writing Ghosthunting Maryland any different from Ghosthunting Virginia?
Well, the main difference is that my father is my co-author on Ghosthunting Maryland. He always wanted to be an author when he grew up, and he wrote a couple of chapters in Ghosthunting Virginia, and he's going to be is in the process of writing about a quarter of Ghosthunting Maryland. So that's one of the biggest differences, that some of the heavy lifting is being picked up by someone else, and he's gone out to a number of the sites with me. So that's the main difference.
Did you learn anything last time that you have utilized in researching these haunted sites?
Yeah, I think my the approach is better. I think I'm more thorough than I was before in my investigations. So certainly, if you're at all good at what you do, you get better at it. So this book, in many ways, will be a better book. One example of that was that we covered 36 sites in Virginia. We gave chapter-length treatment to 36 sites, and we will do that in Ghosthunting Maryland as well. But then we will also have an appendix of however many publicly accessible, purportedly haunted sites we can find. So whether that's 50 or 100, we'll give a one-paragraph each treatment to in an appendix of the book. So in a sense, the book will be comprehensive. It will include, to one extent or another, every purportedly haunted site we can find in the state of Maryland that's publicly accessible. So I think that's a major improvement.
What do you think about the city of Gettysburg starting to cut down on the ghost tours?
I got to be honest with you, Rob. I live in microcosms dictated by whatever I happen to be writing. And Gettysburg isn't in Maryland, Virginia, so I just don't keep track of what's going on out there. Working on these books and doing the legwork on them is just so all-consuming. I really put on blinders and try not to pay attention to what's going on in other sites. I will say that I think it's unfortunate, that it's somewhat deplorable, that this activity gets treated as being somehow more aberrant than reenacting, say. Ghost hunters are taxpayers like everyone else, and if we're talking about a publicly accessible place, then their rights to access and to enjoy the site how they see fit shouldn't be abridged any more than anybody else's is.
Well, I hate to disagree with you there, but, I've seen a lot of these ghost hunters that are, 2 cans short of a 6-pack. And, you know, they do cause a little bit of damage. They do not always obey the law. They don't understand that private property is private property. No, so I can't blame these cities for cracking down and saying enough is enough. Anyway, Michael, thanks very much. We've got to say so long for now. Michael is the author of Ghosthunting Maryland. It's part of America's Haunted Road Trip. We'll be back on the other side of the news as the X-Zone continues live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. 1-877-528-8255 is toll free. And you're listening to us live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network.